In the Ottoman Empire, there was a peculiar tradition among the sultans. When a new sultan ascended the throne, he would eliminate potential rivals. This practice became legal after Sultan Mehmed II introduced the Fateh Law. We will discuss why they did this and when this unusual practice began in this video. Traditions and customs of a people always reflect their cultural peculiarities. In medieval society, religion played a crucial role, influencing political processes. In the Ottoman Empire, a clear system of power transition didn't exist due to the influence of Islam. Ottoman sultans were considered chosen by Allah, both in the present and the future. However, a problem arose when there were multiple potential heirs. The possible solution was to pass the power to the eldest son and peacefully pass away. But how could one be sure that he was indeed chosen by Allah? This became a real dilemma. To avoid errors in predictions and not interfere with higher powers, Ottoman sultans adopted a convenient but not always beneficial inheritance strategy. All children of the current ruler of the Ottomans were considered equal in rights, and the destiny of the inheritance was determined automatically after the father's death. If a sultan attempted to influence this process, it was seen as a violation of Allah's will. On the other hand, the sultan retained the right on an administrative level to support the interests of his chosen sons, appointing them rulers of lands close to the capital. When the sons of the sultan reached a sufficient age, they were sent to various regions to gain practical experience in governing the state. The size of the territory each of them controlled depended on the potential of the future ruler, but typically these were small regions comparable to modest European duchies. Specially selected mentors, chosen personally by the sultan, supervised the heirs, providing them with wise advice on governance and alerting the leader of the Ottomans if any of the sons displayed excessive arrogance. When the sultan passed away, all potential heirs to the throne would receive letters of condolences. From that moment, a real race would begin. Young governors would gather their supporters and head to the capital. Their main goal would be to arrive as quickly as possible, take up positions within the capital's administration and army, and seize the treasury. There were cases where less ambitious heirs would choose not to participate in this race and would arrive only for their father's funeral. Not always did the fastest and most enterprising candidate become the sultan. Information about the death of the father could be delayed or not reach at all, so the prospective ruler sought to gain the support of the sultan's courtiers. This helped him to quickly receive the letter about his father's death. Such an inheritance system raised numerous questions, especially among the sons who finished second or were not informed about the start of the race for the throne. They had two options: either accept defeat or initiate a civil war. The latter option obviously destabilized the state. Everyone understood this, but few were willing to accept the idea of losing the Ottoman throne. Consequently, after the death of the sultan, conflicts and confrontations between brothers often erupted. As it is known, challenging times required decisive measures. Weary of endless conflicts among the heirs, sultans increasingly took steps to ease the situation for their favorites and occasionally hinted to the courtiers on whom to consider as a future ruler. These actions partially alleviated the tension after the sultan's death, but brought new challenges. Unfavorable heirs, forced to travel to distant parts of the country for new knowledge, quickly grasped the unfolding situation and often rebelled against their fathers. So, what to do? Going against the will of higher powers is not an option, and stopping reproduction is not a solution either. The only way to avoid civil wars is to eliminate competitors immediately after ascending the throne. One of the first to make such a decision was Sultan Bayezid I. While still an heir, he witnessed his elder brother's rebellion due to being appointed to a distant region from the capital. The Sultan easily quelled the rebellious son, but Bayezid remembered the event, realizing that in the future he might have to fight another brother for the throne. Bayezid's father often went on military campaigns, taking his two remaining sons with him. In 1389, the Ottoman army clashed with the forces of Serbian feudal lords in the Battle of Kosovo. The Sultan was killed. Exact circumstances vary in different sources. and 2 heirs found themselves nearby. Bayezid was close to his father at the moment of his death, so he was the first to learn about it. Instead of rushing to the capital immediately, Bayezid ordered his closest aides to keep the news of his father's death secret to avoid unnecessary witnesses. Then he sent messengers to his brother with orders to come for further instructions. Unaware of the impending danger, the brother left his army and arrived at the Sultan's camp, where Bayezid awaited him. By the order of the new Sultan, the brother was arrested and swiftly executed by strangulation. Consequently, Bayezid ascended to the throne of the Ottoman Empire with minimal bloodshed. Reflecting on his decisions, Bayezid often expressed that he chose the lesser of 2 evils, saving numerous lives that might have been lost in a civil war. The practice of killing brothers did not immediately become part of the tradition. After Bayezid was captured by the forces of Tamerlane, his sons engaged in their version of the Game of Thrones to determine the new leader. Mehmed I emerged victorious. Each new sultan was convinced that the method chosen by Bayezid was the most effective way to eliminate competitors. The only remaining challenge was to somehow institutionalize this practice in legislation. Fratricide became legal with the enactment of Fateh's Law by Mehmed II, known for his controversial conquest of Constantinople. It is important to note that the Ottomans considered it unacceptable to shed the blood of members of the ruling dynasty. Therefore, they eliminated competitors using the method of strangulation. A silk cord or bowstring was usually used as the means of execution. A total of about 60 heirs were killed in this way. Deceased heirs of the deceased sultan were honored with burials alongside their father. Mosques were built in their names and prayers were offered in their memory. The application of the Fateh Law was not constant, but depended on circumstances. There were instances where a sultan passed away, leaving only 1 heir, or brothers reached agreements in advance about who would become the ruler after their father. Despite this, having a cruel and pragmatic method for settling succession matters allowed the Ottoman Empire to avoid many civil wars. As a result, supreme power transitioned from one ruler to another in a more peaceful environment. After Ahmed I, the law of Fateh gradually became obsolete. The Shahzades were not executed but confined to the cafes, the chambers of Topkapi Palace, from which they were not allowed to leave. Many heirs under such conditions either lost their sanity or succumbed to vices. It was only in 1876 that the official transfer of the throne to the eldest Shahzada of the dynasty was established.